It's preparing.
Okay.
Here, come here.
Okay, it hasn't shown up on our feed yet, but I'm going to go ahead and start because sometimes it takes a minute.
Okay. I think it's there.
There. Okay, so we want to welcome everybody. All three of us are on the publicity committee, myself, Kay, and Joy. And so we thought it would be fun to get together and talk about conquering your family history writing fears. Couple reasons is we'd love to have your stories on your ancestors for the newsletter, which Joy wants. So we're going to go ahead and start. It's going to be 3 parts. Click here. And so I'm going to be talking about finding inspiration for your writing. Joy will be talking about writing your family history stories. And then Kay is going to talk about easily citing your sources, which can be a scary topic. But we can all do this. So when you're writing your ancestors' stories, you want to find inspiration. And so writing our ancestors' stories help us to preserve our family history. So finding inspiration to start sharing these stories is easier than you think. And so hopefully I'll give you some ideas that can inspire us all to get started. Don't ever, sorry, my thing's going a little crazy. Is that on the right slide? Okay. Don't expect someone else to write your ancestors' stories. And this is important to remember because if you wait around for someone else to, they might be waiting around for you to write the story. So let's start out with the power of themes. By using themes to write your family history, it's going to give you structure and it's going to give you focus and direction on where you're going to go with your ancestors' stories. And popular themes for exploration to consider are writing about your ancestors' migration or settlement stories. These are stories about moving to new places, their discoveries, how they fit into society. So there's a lot that you can write in there, and that's just one little clip of your ancestors' story. Another idea is writing about their war or service time. We all have several ancestors that served in the military that were even affected by war, the people that stayed home on the home front. So both sides need to be written of that story. Another one is love and relationships. We have weddings, love letters, long distance relationships. And by looking at those and writing about those, we can capture a little chapter about our ancestors. Another one is occupation. A lot of people don't think about occupation, but like if your ancestor was a coal miner like mine, those are stories that you can write about that are part of your family history, and it gives you a direct theme that you're writing about. Another thing to consider, I just realized the slides aren't moving, are they? Is national days and months as inspiration. I use this one all the time for social media content and for writing blogs and that. Now, national days, I don't know where they come up with some of the ideas, but there's national days for every day of the year. And a lot of times you can find something that's going to spark you to write about. Also, months will go by an entire month. That can give you a whole month of content ideas to write about, such as Black History Month, Women History Month, Veterans Day. So there's tons of places to look. 3 websites I use are National Day Calendar, National Today, and Day of the Year. All 3 of those will give you specific topics or themes for that day, and it can really inspire you. The next thing is to look at personal milestones and celebrations to write about. You can write about births, graduations, anniversaries. And instead of writing about their whole life, you're breaking it down. And by having it broken down into these themes, it helps you to focus on just one ancestor, such as a graduation. Each little story is going to add up. Now we're going to talk about nature and seasons. So if you look at seasons, springtime is pretty much a symbol of renewal and new beginnings. You can write about tales of marriages that took place in the spring, stories of family members that were born during this season, and also about ancestors that moved. Again, we were talking about migration. A lot of our ancestors moved at one time or another, and so those are new beginnings that you can write about in the spring. The other for summer is growth and celebration. Family gatherings, reunions, picnics, ancestors who worked in the agricultural fields, because a lot of those would do planting in the spring. And then also the important one is summer harvest. So did your ancestor participate in the harvest? Traditions and festivals were also celebrated in the summertime. And so looking at some of those, you can find in newspapers and then add more context to it as you're writing your ancestor's story. Autumn is harvest and reflection. So what did your ancestor do to prepare for winter? Because that's what autumn was normally done. They had to do things that we didn't have to do. Harvesting the crops, preparing for winter, such as canning and preserves, were your ancestors in the kitchen. And then also there was other festivals and traditions that would happen in the fall. And like I said, you can look in the newspaper to find these things and then contribute to their story and write it out. Winter was resilience and togetherness because they'd be inside all the time. Winter represents challenges, resilience, and importance of family togetherness. Write tales about your ancestors that endured harsh winters and significant snowstorms, family holidays and traditions that were celebrated during the winter months. Stories of family members helping each other during the tough times, because a lot of times they had to rely on their neighbors. Another theme to think about is natural events and disasters. These impacted our ancestors, such as floods, droughts, hurricanes, and they shaped the lives of our ancestors. They would lead to decisions that our ancestors made. And our ancestors had to survive and migrated due to natural disasters. And these are all their stories. Community support and rebuilding. Another thing to think about is using props and challenges. These are all over social media. And for those of you, I'm sure everybody knows Amy Johnson Crow does 52 ancestors in 52 weeks. These are fantastic props to use. You do not have to post them. You don't have to do them every week, but hers is the one challenge I strongly recommend if you're just starting out. It gives you a direction, a topic, and you go with it. There's no wrong or right answer. But there's also other challenges on social media that you'll be able to find that will give you direction and kind of spark you to consider, okay, what can I write about? Okay, that is it for me. Hopefully that at least gives you guys some ideas. And now we are going to toss it over to Joy.
All right, we are going to hope I can share my screen. So let me see if I can do that. And I am looking at that. Come on, do it for me here. All right, and we're gonna go. Okay, are we kosher? So you guys are seeing the full screen, right?
Yep, looks good.
Excellent. Okay. So, hello, I'm Joy Neighbors. I'm going to give you some quick background on me, on who I am, why I know a little bit about writing. I've been a journalist for over 30 years. I have an MFA in writing, and I have written for national magazines and travel guides, including Family Tree magazine. I also have a book out called The Family Tree Cemetery Field Guide that was published by Penguin Random House in 2019. And I am the editor for the Indiana Genealogist, which is the Indiana Genealogical Society's quarterly journal. And yes, we do accept articles, so please feel free. Go to our website, find out how to submit to me. Would love to see some of the things you have. We have topics every quarter. Feel free to write to that, or you can do something completely different. And I'm going to get my plug in since we're all here. I have a new book coming out in the spring, and it's called Buried America, Crown Hill Cemetery, the City on a Hill. So we are going to start out right now. And we are, excuse me just a second here, I already lost my place over here. We are going to take a look. When you're looking at your family history, your family is names and dates and relationships, but there are a whole lot more than that. The family stories tell us about our ancestors' lives and their dreams and their passions and their hopes and their fears. And that's what we want to put in a story or in a book. You may be the only person who still remembers something about certain ancestors. So you may be the only one who can still write their story. You can start small. You can write story by story. It could be about one family. It could be about one incident. It can be about one ancestor. It's completely up to you. Take the story and see what you can remember. How many details can you pull out of that? And then basically what you're wanting to do is create the world that your ancestor lived in. That's what those details are going to do. They're going to let you tell them about the person and about the community that they lived in. As I said, I was a journalist, so learned the 5 W's very young, the who, what, when, where, and why. Found out it applies not only to media, but it applies to just about everything in life, including genealogy research. So when you're writing, who are you writing about? And what are you wanting to tell about them? A story, an incident? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Why are you the person to tell this story? So we're going to start right off finding the story. We need to have a protagonist, a main character. What ancestor do you have that you'd like to use? Now, you may already have one in mind, but you may not. So we're going to have to take a look at the family tree. And of course, names and dates, filling all of this out, but it's those details that are really going to matter. It's going to make the ancestor come alive. So know your stories and then decide who has the best story, the most interesting story. Pick a good one. So begin by asking yourself a few questions. What branch of your family appeals to you the most? And who do you want to spend some quality time with while you write your story or your book? Did these peoples did they have more adventures? Did they have more odd occurrences? Did they have a lot of tragedies that occurred in their lives? Why do they intrigue you? Once you can name that, that is pretty much going to be the same thing that intrigues the reader. So you have to know what pulled you in so you can pull them into your story. Did the family do something that stood out in history, be it local or state or even national? Did a family member make a moral decision, or was there a scandal involved in the family that still isn't talked about today? So first thing I do is create a character sketch. You want to show your character's personality. Who is this person? What are they like? What are their likes and their dislikes? What motivates them? What makes them angry? What makes them passionate? What makes them excited about something? What sets them off? And how are they going to change during this story? Because they do have to change through the story. I'll give you just an example. My ancestor, Peter Burkhardt, my third maternal grandfather, he was a pillar of the Petersburg, Indiana community. He married Elizabeth Snyder in 1844. They raised 8 children, all who lived within 3 miles of their parents their entire lives. Peter was a prosperous farmer of 1,000 acres. He was one of the best hunters in Pike County, and he captured a large gray wolf that had terrorized the area back in 1875. So we're starting to get a feel of who Peter was. Now, he served for many years as a trustee for the Madison Township, and during his terms, Peter brought the township out of debt. During his last term, the township had a surplus balance of $1,500, which was quite a big deal back then. Peter was one of the most successful office holders in the county, and he was a very well-respected pioneer citizen. But he began experiencing some health problems in 1886. He and his wife Elizabeth both died July 20th, 1887. So them having the same death date became very intriguing for me to find out why. I did a timeline of Peter Burkhardt's life, what I knew up to that point. Now, you can create the timeline and see how and when these main events occurred in your ancestor's life. Many of the genealogy programs will do this for you. I created my own just to kind of get a feel for how to do that. And then once you have your timeline on your main character, you're going to start to see where things fit, how they work, and actually how you want the story to come together. And then we have the plot points. So you want to capture your reader's interest, a short article, or even for the historical novel. You want them to be there with you during this. So Freytag's pyramid is the framework that writers use to analyze and outline both the dramatic structure of the story from the beginning to the end. And it's made up of 5 elements. We start right out with the introduction or the exposition. So this is the background information. It establishes who the main characters are, where the story takes place, and what the story is really about. It's at this point our characters appear to be normal. Then we go for the rising action. This is where we introduce the main conflict. This is where the characters are trying to handle something they're not equipped to do, or solve a problem, and things are just ratcheting out of control on them. Then we have the turning point, or the climax. So this is the exciting part of the story. It's the deal breaker. The reader should feel a sense of urgency, of excitement, and they should be worried about these characters. Then we have the falling action. Tension is released, we start to wrap up the story, and we begin to understand how these decisions that they made all through the story so far affected their lives. Then the resolution, and literally all the loose ends are tied up. Characters begin to have a new sense of normalcy. This is closure for the story, but it doesn't have to have a happy ending. And it does not have to be the end of your ancestor's story or their life, just the one story that you're telling. And we need to wrap that up there. So where do you search for interesting details? Well, a great story contains intricate details. So we're going to be looking at historical events, economic conditions in that community, politics, any circumstances that could have influenced your ancestors' life. It's going to help you better understand how to portray them. And you might decide, okay, I need to know the fashions of the era. So you'll want to Google that and see, how did they dress? Why did they dress like that? If they live in the country, what was a common way to get to town? Or if they live in the city, how did they even get around? What were the foods they ate? We're going to look at genealogy records to get some answers. That includes the census report, the birth, marriage, and death records. Even obits give us a hint of who the family was and what parts certain members played in conjunction with others. They're offering information about our ancestors' lives and about their relationships. Genealogy libraries and historical societies, they have a lot of unpublished handwritten stories. They're oral diaries and histories and family Bibles, letters, and even recipe books. And they all have some firsthand ties, some firsthand account to our ancestors' story. And don't forget, you can also go online and look at genealogy sites to see what some of the stories are. But remember, take those with a grain of salt until you can prove that they are actually your family members and their stories. Community and town histories. These are always fun. They're published histories about the prominent citizens of that area. You can look at the local libraries, the historical groups, again, check genealogy societies, talk with the reference librarians and tell them exactly what you're hoping to find, what you're wanting, because more than likely, they know where the record is that you're looking for that will answer those questions. Then we have letters and diaries. State organizations may have some of these if the local groups don't. And check for family Bibles, because many times people would take an important letter and tuck it in the Bible for safekeeping. Family photographs. These really give you a sense of who your ancestors are. But if you don't have family photos, you can still do pretty well with this. You can start by Googling the era or the community that your family is from to get more of a feel, again, of how they dressed, what their homes look like, or their businesses. What did they look like outside? What did they look like inside? You want to see also if you have any online cousins who might have photos that you know nothing about that could help you with your research. Online, you can find photos at ancientfaces.com. Dead Fred is a very popular site for lost photos, and the Library of Congress.gov LOC is wonderful to go to and start searching. Now, occupations, something else we need to know about. What were their jobs? What were their skills? What did they do to make a living? Community books will have information like that, and so will the census records and newspapers. Life events. These could play a very important part in your ancestor's story. Again, we have the birth, the marriage, the death records, but we're going to look a little farther. Maybe there's something from the local circuit or the criminal courts that involved an event in their life. Maybe there was bankruptcies or land records or deeds. What were the paper trails that led to something in their lives that brought about whatever your story's main point is? Illnesses and epidemics. Again, 18th and 19th century diseases can be searched out on sites like Wikipedia. You can check the American Battlefield Trust. Also look at Roots Web or the National Center for Biotechnology. And there's even the 19th century medical journal, The Lancet, that has some great articles that will help you unravel what your ancestor may have had. And again, get those newspapers and see if there's anything listed about epidemics. Newspapers are my favorite place to go. Local, county, or state, they are a wealth of information. And you can also Google your ancestor's name, see what pops up. And then you want to Google their spouse and their children and their parents and see what else comes up. There could be a story that you never knew anything about that's buried in the papers. Gain a feel for the times. So you want to read the local gossip, and there was plenty. You want to find out what the opinions were. Maybe someone wrote an editorial. Look at the advertisements. This tells you again about that community and about the people that lived there. What was on everyone's mind during the time of your story? Online, you can go to Chronicling America. That's part of the Library of Congress. And it has more than 19 million newspapers from 1777 to 1963, and they're free. Genealogy Bank is a pay site, but they have more than 13,000 city and small town papers from all 50 states. Newspapers by Ancestry, which is still newspapers.com, close to 1 million newspapers, and 22,000 date back to the 1700s. If you look at Newspaper Archive, there are billions of old newspapers from all over the world, and there's more than 100 million obits in that. And we have Newspaper Navigator, another Library of Congress site. So to wrap it up, the elements to remember when you're writing your family history: you need to do good character sketches, in-depth descriptions. That's going to make or break your story. Intricate details about the person, their life, their community, and their problems. And always apply Freytag's pyramid to help make a strong story. So, have fun. Good luck. Toss it back to you.
Thank you so much, Joy and John Marie. I've learned quite a bit in the past few minutes,
Cool.
and hopefully I can get something onto paper to share at some point.
Excellent.
Okay.
But now, can you take it from me? Do I have to unshare? Yes, you've got it. Thank
Did it
you.
work? Okay.
Yes, it did. Because I'm like, I lost my Zoom. Totally good.
Awesome. Let me see here. How does it look on your end?
Good.
Is it
It doesn't take the, it doesn't have, it's not on the whole screen.
okay. Here we go. Okay. Is that better?
Yep, got it.
Okie dokie. So I have the topic that frightens most folks when they are starting out with their family history writing. This is just a brief introduction to genealogical source citations. And by brief, I mean the tip of the iceberg, because you could study these for months on end. My name is Kay Ford. I am the IGS Publications Committee Chair. I'm thrilled to work with John Marie and Joy, as well as our newsletter editor, Jen Alford. And we work throughout the year to try to come up with themes and ideas for our publications. And part of submitting your writing to the publications committee is we ask that you provide citations. So with that in mind, keep in mind, citations are your friend. So just take a deep breath and relax. They shouldn't be a source of anxiety when writing. And as a disclaimer to this, I'm gearing this talk to your personal family history writing. And towards the end, we will talk a little bit more about submitting to our journal a little more detailed citations. But while you're writing your personal family history, your future ancestors will appreciate your citations, however simple they may be. So why do family history writers need source citations? Citations document what you state as fact with a source. So there are things that are common knowledge to the general public, such as the years that the Civil War was fought. You don't need to cite something like that. What you do need to cite is where you found your second great-grandfather's death date. People later on would like to know where you found that information, and then they might like to go find that source to verify the information. They might want to go read the death certificate for themselves. And citations can also help you find that source again if needed. Raise your hand if you've ever printed something from Ancestry or Family Search, or made a copy of a page in a book, set your work aside, and 2 years later you look at it and you think, where in the world did I find that? So it helps you avoid that duplication of research. And then your source citations show that you did the work to draw a strong conclusion, that you looked at several sources and you analyzed the information you found and addressed any type of conflict. Footnote citations for sources help us document, organize, and analyze the evidence gathered. They are the, quote, hallmark of quality family history, end quote. And as you can see, I have quoted that statement. Very simple at the bottom of the screen. So if you needed to read the rest of the article, you have the citation and you can find that on the internet. So this is an example of a 4-generation research report that I finished recently. And I am sharing this to show you what I mean when I say footnote source citations. I mean, these are footnote citations at the bottom of each page of the report. This report wound up being almost 37 pages long. If they were end note citations, they would have all been at the very end of the report, over 100 citations. And that in turn would force me to go back and forth if I wanted to refer to a footnote or a citation. I would be going back and forth in the report. I would lose my place. I would lose track of what the author was trying to explain when they shared their research. So that's what I mean when I say footnotes, source citations. They're at the bottom of each page. And you probably remember when you were in high school or college learning about different citation styles. There's the MLA, the Modern Language Association style, and the APA, the American Psychological Association style. The citation style most used by genealogists is from the Chicago Manualist style. It's abbreviated CMOS, or the Turabian style, and it's modified for genealogical works. Kate Turabian, I did want to add this. She worked for the University of Chicago for 28 years, and she was the dissertation secretary. She had to approve all master's theses and doctorate dissertations. So she had her own style guide, and the Chicago Manualist style is based on that. So writing a source citation is considered an art. It's not science. And it helps if you understand your source before you write the citation. So are you looking at an old photo, an old document, or even a sampler. I found this sampler interesting because there is a little piece of information that you can take from it. You can find out the estimated birth year of Margaret Barnholt because she created this sampler when she was 12 years old in 1831. And also, it helps to keep your source citations consistent. And one way to keep your citations consistent is to create a citation template. This is a page from my style template, and you can see I have census right at the beginning because they are used so often. And I've started with the 1850, and it goes through, I think, through 1950. And you can see that I pulled these, I've set these up for Ancestry, so I might have to tweak it if it was Family Search or somewhere else, but I popped this into the report and I changed the information where there are brackets, and that helps keep my citations consistent throughout my report. At its simplest, a citation should give you the following information about your source. And this harkens back to Joy's 5 W's. The who, what, when, where, and the slight difference is wherein. The who of a citation is the subject of the source or the author. The what is the source that holds the information. So that could be a book, a letter, a headstone, a sampler. The when is the date of the event, the date of the publication, the date you access the source. Where the event took place, where you viewed the source, where an item was published. And the where in the source you found the information. So that could be a page number in a book, an image number for an online database, so on and so forth. And the example I put here at the bottom of the screen shows the who, the author, the what, it's a blog, the wherein, it's the title of the blog post, the where, this is where to find the blog online, and the when in the blue. I accessed that this past weekend and it was published in 2019. So a very simple example, you find your ancestor in a published book. Your citation may read as follows. The who is the editor of the book, Kate Rabb, or Robb, I'm not sure which, but it also is L.W. Barry. The what is the book, title of the book. The when is the book was published in 1920, and the time frame for Barry was the late 1830s. The where is Indiana, and that's in the title of the book, specifically Knightstown, Indiana. That's where L.W. Barry's found. And also we see New York City, where the book was published, and it was the Diary of John Parsons of Petersburg, Virginia. And the information for L.W. Barry is on page 139. And you'll notice I bolded entry 4 in this citation. I did that just to show you that that's my phrase to set off the subject of the citation. So when someone reads my citation and they see entry 4 L.W. Barry, that's what the citation is referring to. And then we can go into what are called layered citations. This is when you cite a source you found on an online database, because those things you find online are digitized images that are originally found somewhere else. So usually that is when you see a semicolon separating the different layers of the citation. And usually the layered citations are only 2 or 3 different layers. It's not anything out of the realm of many different layers. It's just a couple. And this citation example was actually, it's one footnote source citation. I'm referring to 2 death announcements that I mentioned in the same sentence in my report. And the beginning, the first part, the green, separated by the semicolon, is where I saw the death notice, the digital image on newspapers.com. And then in the purple, I'm citing the newspaper that was digitized, the date of the newspaper, the page, the column, and then the entry for Catherine Doyle. The "and" in red is the second part of the citation. Instead of having 2 separate footnote source citations, I joined these together in one citation to help just make it easier for the reader. And an example of a layered citation. This is for a death certificate from an online database on Ancestry. And the who, you can see I bolded entry for Beatrice Elizabeth Ballard. The what is the name of the database. The when is the date of her death, which follows her name. And the date of the database access was 2023. The database is held on Ancestry, and the original record is on the Indiana Archives and Records Administration. It's a microfilm publication in Indianapolis. And wherein in the database, I've used waypoints here to help the reader. The reader can access Ancestry, go to the database, and then follow these little breadcrumb clues. Certificate, 1918. The 01 is the microfilm roll. And then they can go to the exact image of her death certificate to review it for themselves. And again, I've added a little footnote at the bottom of the screen where I found information about waypoints, and it's the Nicole Dyer blog. So if you want to learn more about waypoints, you can head on over there to Family Locket. But this is an example of a layered citation. There's the semicolon. It's where I viewed the death certificate. It was online. And then I have cited it. The original is on it's a microfilm publication. So I would be remiss if I did not mention Evidence Explained by Elizabeth Schoen Mills. She is a certified genealogist, and she has written this book, Evidence Explained, Historical Analysis, Citation, and Source Usage. And it's citing history sources from artifacts to cyberspace. You can buy the book. You can also access her website at evidenceexplained.com, where you can find her blog. You can find quick lessons. It's a helpful addition to the book, but as a genealogist, if you are wanting to create good source citations, this is a must-have on your bookshelf. So the main goals in crafting source citations are consistency and providing enough information about the source for you or someone else to find the source. And it's up to you how detailed your citations are. Again, it's an art, not a science. Providing source citation also lends validity to the depth of your research. And creating source citations helps you or someone in the future avoid duplicating research. And that would lead us into research logs, which maybe we'll talk about some other time. But have faith in yourself. You can do this. Citations are your friend again. So just create your genealogical source citations, practice at it, and you will do it without even thinking about it soon enough. Thank you very much. That is all I have.
Hey, before you get out of that, okay,
Mhm.
I have a couple of people that were asking about when you were on the layered citation example.
Mhm.
Would the reader understand the layering of the citations, or would this have to be detailed explained in the proceeding notes?
The reader, let me see, I go, current slide. Eh, Let me go back a couple here.
Yeah.
The reader,
So like,
and
will it
it's,
need to be explained to them somewhere along the lines, or will they automatically probably get it?
they should be able to take this information and find what they need online. They could always actually contact the Indiana Archives and request the Indiana US death certificates because it's the same database, the year 1918, 01, and look for Ballard, the date, the register number. This is the way I write my layered citation. You can actually take this information, certificate 1918 and 01, and add it to the end where you cite the microfilm publication.
Okay.
And then that, if you did that, the reader would have to see the title of the database and then jump down to the end to get the breadcrumbs to get to the image. So that's why I put the breadcrumbs with the digital information.
Okay, perfect.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
an,
as far as
you
that
know,
goes, thank you so much.
it's an art. So when you're writing it, wherever you feel is the best place for the information, as long as you keep it consistent. So with other online database citations, I would put little breadcrumbs and the image information before I cited the original location.
All right. I think that was it. And if anyone else has any questions, just please go ahead and post. Just going through here, making sure. Yeah, we had two on the layered citations and they both said you answered it. Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Layered citations, they're tricky. You know, that's more something you'd use in like a journal article. And if anyone's interested in submitting their work to us, we are happy to help you and work with you on those citations, because you know we know it's tricky at the beginning, but the more practice you have, the better you get at it.
Right. Until it becomes natural.
Yep. It's kind of like a personal style, kind of like Kate Turabian had her style guide.
Right.
And you can actually create your own style guide so that all your work is consistent as far as fonts and font size, and it just depends on how deep you want to get into it. As far as personal family history, if it was something like interview with so-and-so, the daughter of so-and-so, and the date, that would tell someone where you received your information.
Okay, I have another question from Marilyn. Can Joy please show the slide again on the turning point part of the triangle?
Give me just a second to see if I can find that.
Okay, then there's another question I'll ask while you look for that, Joy. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. Adrienne. She said on one of the society's previous talks, a gentleman was discussing how formidable it was to apply for membership. Is this what he was talking about in, I guess, sourcing and documenting?
Is that was possibly about the Lineage Society?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It was maybe when Ron.
Mm-hmm. I think Ron accepts the simple citations, and he will work with people on those too.
Okay.
Let me see if I can share my screen again. And this should be correct. Concurrent. Okay, so there is the slide, if that helps. Oh, and we went the wrong way. Hang on. Let me just back it up. There we go. Okay. So is that what they wanted? Do they want the
Yeah,
whole?
I guess they wanted to see that. They didn't ask any other questions.
Okay.
So maybe they wanted to make notes.
Okay, perfect.
And then I just had someone ask about 52 ancestors in 52 weeks, I think it is. And that is by Amy Johnson Crow. I don't know if you two have done those. She also, you can find it on Facebook under Generations Cafe, or otherwise just search Amy Johnson Crow, 52 ancestors in 52 weeks. And you can join that challenge any point, anytime. You don't have to do it every week. And I will actually put the website, I'm looking it up right now. I'll put the website up here on the link. I think that's it. I don't see any other questions. Let me just get this up.
And later this evening, I will take this entire presentation and upload it to our YouTube channel.
And Joy, can you talk about the upcoming themes we have?
Can I stop sharing here?
Yeah.
I gotta dig through my computer here real fast. I can if I can figure out where I am.
And hopefully this will help you, spark you guys to write some stories. I know I need to.
We do the themes because it gives you somewhere to go with things. So we have for 2024, we have the spring issue will be about the history of the Indiana Genealogical Society. Summer is about Indiana limestone. So we're looking at the quarries, at the towns, at the people who actually did the working in those places. Autumn is Remember When, and I'm already getting articles on this. This is great. It's the before and after stories and photos of Indiana homes and businesses. And then next winter, not the one coming up, but the one farther off, 24, 25, Hoosiers in Korea and in Vietnam. So we have a lot of cool ones coming up. If anybody has suggestions or ideas that you'd like to pitch for 2025, send them to me. We usually have a brainstorming session and start pulling things together in the summer. So you're perfectly timed to send us something to look at for the following year.
And we accept articles that are not within that theme as well, correct?
We definitely do. And I want to mention the journal coming up is going to be winter, and we're looking at Indiana industry. So if your ancestors worked in whatever industry in the Hoosier State, you have, even if you just have photos, or if you have a little story about them, or if you actually have cited research, send it. We'd love to see it.
Okay, I think we got all the questions. We want to thank everyone. And like Kay said, we will be posting this on YouTube It'll be up here on Facebook. If you guys have any other questions you think about, go ahead and post. I know John said he's got a group of 11 people, I think, at his house, plus him, that's watching it right now, and they're having an after discussion. So if you guys come up with any
Great.
questions, just post. And we hope this helps. We hope this inspires you guys. And we're waiting for your stories.
Yes.
I just wanted to add real quickly how you both mentioned letters that could spark a topic or add to a story. Where I work in Henry County, we were just donated over 300 letters written during the years 1942 through 45 during World War II. And it is an excellent glimpse into life during that time. These people wrote back and forth every single day. And actually, the lady who donated it, she has actually organized all those letters and indexed all the names and the subject matter. So for future researchers, it would make it easy to find what they're looking for. Maybe like the Sears building in Newcastle, that kind of thing. So yes, there are treasures abound at museums and historical societies. That's my plug.
You never know what you're going to find.
And citations are your friends. They don't bite.
No. And someone just asked about submitting the articles. I am going to share the link right now about where you submit them.
Great.
All right. Okay, that is posted. And thank you all for coming. Next time we have a professional genealogist certified. Okay, do you remember her name? I'm trying to.
Nikki LaRue.
Yep.
She is a certified genealogist and a newly accredited genealogist.
Nice.
So
she's going to share about the journey and give guidance for those who are maybe thinking about it.
Well, awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.